Hello, beautiful, vibrant souls. I'm so glad that this video has crossed your timeline today. We are here to pull some cards for the collective, see what messages Spirit has for us. And if you are looking for personal, in-depth guidance, I can do a confidential recorded video for you on a sliding scale, so it always fits within your budget as well. We have here, we're having some similar messages coming up repeatedly. And I'm wondering what part of the collective is struggling with understanding what's happening to them and unsure of what to do to move forward. Let's start with our Hierophant first. Um, we are not meant to endure all things alone. This is about reaching out. This is about opening yourself up to the messages, to the guidance that's being provided to you, recognizing the signs and synchronicities in front of you, and it really takes a certain level of um, being willing to see what's being shown to you. This seems like there's people who are in denial about what they're being shown. They're not wanting to hear that message. They're just not trying to hear this, is what I'm getting. There is good advice being given or is available to you that you have not reached out for, that you have not welcomed or accepted into your life. And in doing so, we restrict ourselves from the opportunity to learn and grow. And it requires being humble. It requires setting our ego aside and being willing to accept the help, to accept that we don't know all the answers and we're not supposed to accept that maybe we have caused some problems in our own life, that we have put ourselves in a position of some difficulties. And it is our responsibility. We have to be accountable for those things in order to be able to fix them, to remedy them. So I'm just getting for some that the answers that you seek are out there. They're there. And sometimes they're right in front of you. It might not be what you wanted to hear, but the tarot isn't here to tell us what we want to hear. The tarot is here to tell us what we need to hear in order to give our lives back on track. So these messages can be challenging at times. We've got this Eight of Swords that's come up again. You're allowing yourself to fall into these traps, allowing yourself to get caught up in the drama, allowing yourself to um, play this victim role where you've not taken any accountability for the situation. It's everybody else's fault. And there's always going to be other people that have some role, but that doesn't mean that you're obligated to get involved in that. It doesn't mean that you're obligated to pay attention to that. In fact, it means sometimes it's most important that we double down our focus on what we need to be doing. I'm getting that if you're not getting the support you need where you're at, then you need to leave that area. If you're not getting the quiet that you need to do your work, you go somewhere quiet. You get up and leave, go somewhere else. Or assert your boundaries if it's your space. Say, this is just how it's going to have to be. If you're not accomplishing your goals, there really isn't anybody else to blame. This is you that's decidedly scattering yourself too thin and distracted and lacking focus. Now, it's led to this Five of Wands, which is some of these challenges and difficulties that you're facing right now. Without taking accountability for the choices that you've made leading up to this, it's impossible for you to recognize what it is that you need to do to get out of this. There are answers, there are solutions. With our Hierophant, it's showing us that the spirit can only do so much. I often use the reference that you can lead somebody to the water, but you can't force them to drink it. Spirit can show you all of the answers and give you all of the pathways and all the possibility and the advice and the guidance and the help. But if you don't ask for it, if you don't acknowledge it, if you don't speak up, if you don't do what needs to be done, it does nothing for you. Nobody can force you. Just like there's no point in going to a therapist if you sit there and argue with the therapist. Therapist is trying to give you some guidance and advice. If you don't go there and put some effort into some self awareness and then the self actualization that follows, actually taking action towards these areas of your life that you've said that you want help with. You've been given some tools, you've been given guidance, you've been told, hey, you got to quit making these choices if you want it to be better. And then you don't do that. You see, therapy doesn't work. Therapy works great for lots of people, but those people want change and they know that nobody else is going to be able to do it for them. Nobody's going to be able to make you happy. Nobody's going to save you. We are all out here swimming. We are all barely swimming. Some of us are floating, bobbing, heading along. We're treading water. We're just barely getting by on our own. So can't necessarily all be heroes for every other person out here that isn't doing that. We at least need you to tread water too. Now, yes, I can encourage and motivate you and we can, cheer each other on and if you get tired, maybe you can rest a little bit. And if I get tired, I need to be able to rest too. And that's the problem when we allow people to rely on us too much. You can wear yourself out and then you might not have that strength. Then what happens if you don't have somebody to rely on? What happens if they didn't preserve their strength for you? Only you accountable for you. You have to put the oxygen mask on first before you can help someone else. It doesn't do any good if you're exhausted, depleted, and completely useless. And then you can't even handle your own life. So distracting yourself by helping other people and doing all these things for other people is not doing your life any good. It's not going to make you feel any better about things. And first it feels a little bit selfish because you feel like, oh, I'm just doing for me, doing for me, doing for me. But when you have the rescue boat and you can pull other people onto your boat without it sinking, then you can help. But when you're floating along and all you've got is a buoy to hold on to, eventually the weight of all these other things is going to sink you off. You'll all drown. Ask for help. Nobody else is accountable for that except you. This message coming up for many who may have resonated with that 3-card tarot pull in the previous video, but this one about health. I honor the physical vessel that enshrines my soul. This is the vehicle that carries us through this life, and it requires some basic maintenance, but there are different levels to that. When we're young, it's very easy to do the bare minimum and still feel okay because we have our vitality about us. So you don't necessarily focus on what you're eating or how often you're eating it or whether you've forgotten to eat entirely or whether you've purely just existed off of energy drinks for the entirety of the day. Eventually, these things start to add up and they start to add up very quickly. Next thing you know, you're hitting middle age and you feel old. You feel like your body doesn't move because you sit at a desk all day or because you don't get up and move vigorously for at least an hour a day. You aren't hydrating your body. You are actually missing a lot of really important vitamins and minerals. A lot of people don't realize this, but you can be of a higher weight and be deficient in a number of vitamins and minerals. It, that the amount of calories over our needs does not necessitate that those calories were plentiful in the vitamins and minerals that we need. We can eat a diet full of nothing, diet full of nothing more than fats and sugars that will just get packed on and cause extra burden on our organs. So we have to differentiate between, well, I ate today and I nourished my body today. There's a difference, especially when we get past those very young ages, when we start to get into those late 20s and then you get those 30s, and where I'm at in the 40s, really important. I can tell the difference when I have eaten a bunch of processed complex carbohydrates that are useless to my body. It just gets packed down as fat. I'm not constantly active in that way anymore. What I need more than anything is protein, the building blocks, and I need nutrients. And the carrier of all those things is good, clean hydration. And the things that work against those things are things like caffeine, tobacco. Most people don't know this. Drinking excessive amounts of caffeine can actually deplete your system of some of the most vital minerals required for heart and mind function. And not only that, but it can make it difficult for you to sleep. And then when you can't sleep, you're even more tired. So then you chug down that caffeine, deplete your body more of those minerals that help you maintain brain and heart function. When your brain and your heart aren't functioning, you're feeling sluggish as well. And you're tired. And you wonder why you're feeling tired when you're just on this cycle of eating junk and drinking caffeine. Your body is a temple, and it's the vehicle with which you carry yourself through life. So if you have not taken the time to nourish this, to do that maintenance, do that oil check, that blood work check, and to put the proper means for it to function well. In a vehicle, you're not going to put sand in oil, are you? No, you need to put good quality oil in there to keep that system lubricated. You don't use the highest quality gasoline and then throw a bunch of extra sugar in there, do you? No, it doesn't matter how good that was if you contaminate it with a bunch of junk. So we have to treat our bodies as though they are just as sacred as every other aspect of life. This is how I present myself to the world. It's not about how I look. It's not about the size of my body. It's about how it feels on the inside. And it's only going to feel as good as I treat it. I'm getting this message for some of you that you have been neglecting these basic needs. Maybe you're not aware of what it is you're doing. Maybe you haven't been educated in nutrition properly. Maybe you don't know these things. You have a right to go to your physician or to see a nutritionist and to ask these questions. You have a right to, and I would, of course, be careful when we're using the internet, but there are resources out there that are good, sensible resources that can give you the information you need. You can ask other people who are healthy. What are the things that you do to maintain your health, especially those who are on restrictive diets or require their diet to be of a certain way in order for them to be healthy? Ask them, ask for help. And more than anything, strive for moderation. Strive for the things that you know are bad for you to be in the lower end of your consumption. Strive to every day eat some fresh fruits and vegetables. Strive to every day get some healthy, clean protein that's low in fat and low in sugar in your system. Drink a lot of water and try to eliminate some of the excessive things that are not necessary. You'll find yourself more satisfied. You'll find your energy better. You'll find your mood stable. You'll find yourself able to concentrate, and you will sleep better at night, and then you will wake up feeling refreshed and ready to start the day again. And you are so worthy of this effort. Please cherish your health. You only have it for so long, and you certainly don't want to spend 10, 20 years absolutely miserable in this body. Start today. Start right now. The very next meal you have, the very next sip of something you take can be different. It can be the one that changes everything for you. For our final card today, we are pulling the Coyote Spirit. We're trusting in the divine detours. These are the situations that take place that make no sense when they do until later. Sometimes much later. Sometimes you never even know why. Feels like it was a happy accident, a blessing in disguise. We have all these words and phrases to describe these situations, but I like to use this phrase of divine detour. I remember there was one time that I was sitting at a stoplight. Something had started to act very bizarre with my music coming through. And so I took a moment to address that since I was already stopped at the stoplight. And when I looked up, I realized that it was green. And so I went to go, and right as I went to hit the gas, a massive semi truck with two trailers on it came barreling through the light. If I had been paying attention at that very moment, I would have been right in that path of that vehicle. I was running a red light at that point. I never understood what was happening at that moment. It never happened again. My music never did that again. It was always just one of those things that I trusted and believed was protection from the divine, from my guards, from spirit, where I felt as though I was being safe. I was being kept safe in that moment. Another time, I was about to get on the highway to go home, and it was about an hour and a half drive on the highway. And I kept having these absolutely terrible, vivid flashes of my vehicle rolling off over the embankment, down the embankment, and seeing myself unconscious, bleeding. And I'm sitting in the turn lane to get on the highway. And I don't know why I kept seeing this. And I just decided at that moment that I was not supposed to do that. And so I drove myself home the very long, slow way. I went home on a road that only got up to 55 miles an hour. It took me 2 hours and 15 minutes to get home. It kept me away from my child for another 45 minutes. Made everyone that was helping me out with my child angry at me. In fact, they were very impatient, and that person that I needed to look at my vehicle was reluctant to do so. He thought I was absolutely crazy. I dropped our child off at school, and I immediately set towards his home to have him take a look at my vehicle because something was bothering me about it. As I was coming over an overpass over the river, there was a set of train tracks right at the base of this bridge. And I was only going about 30 miles an hour coming down this bridge because it was a low speed area. And I hit those train tracks, and immediately my vehicle jerked hard, hard to the right. It was so hard it hurt my wrist. I slammed into the curb. It wouldn't go forward anymore. I get out to look, and my tire is literally just cocked out. And I was able to get it off of the road with some help. And he came to look at my vehicle only to discover that my ball joint had failed. There was a failure, it broken. And it wasn't an old ball joint. This was a relatively new piece of hardware in my vehicle. There's no reason for me to think this is going to happen to me. My car is old. I shouldn't be on the highway. No, something just kept telling me, don't get on the highway because if you're going 70 miles an hour down the highway and this happens, you're going to die. But I wasn't when that happened. I was going 28, 30 miles an hour when it happened, and I didn't die. I didn't get hurt at all. And it was fixed. And I went to pick up my child from school at normal time. And it was because I trusted myself, because I trusted what was being shown, what I was feeling. I just went with it that I'm still alive today. Now, these are fairly extreme examples. Yes. Yeah, they are. Absolutely. That doesn't mean that they're not as important when they don't come to you in these smaller moments. When you don't get that job, that's a divine detour. When you lose that job, that's a divine detour. I know a friend that was fired from their job. They were so frustrated. they were angry about it. So they went out there and they're on a mission to find a better job. They were going to prove it to that company that they were worthwhile. And they got a fantastic job afterwards. A few months later, that company folded. And they were out already. They were already safe and stable and they didn't have to worry about it. When that person doesn't call you back, when they ghost you, it's a divine detour. Spirit was saving you from something you didn't need to experience. In all these things, whether they are large or small, we are to say thank you. You will sometimes kicking and dragging, kicking and screaming, you will be dragged through the woods, only to discover that you ended up where you needed to be. Sometimes it's a shortcut you weren't expecting. Sometimes it's not the well-weathered path, but the well-weathered path is that way because that's where the stampedes come through. So you got pulled off that main course for a reason. And you would not necessarily know why, and you will not necessarily understand why. But it is one of those moments that you can honestly just say, thank goodness, the Spirit showed me what I needed to see, and it did its work. It guided me in the ways, it protected me, it kept me safe, it put me exactly where I needed to be when I needed to be there. Thank you so much for joining together with me. I am so grateful to have you here with me on this journey, and I was always, always grateful to hear from you. Much love to you. Stay safe.